Hello and welcome. My name is Dana Bodavis, and I have put together this short video with some key information to help you craft student learning objectives. Before we get started, let's take a look at this graphic, which provides a visual hierarchy of all the different types of statements that influence the design of a course and the writing of one's objectives. For our purposes, we will mostly be looking at the bottom two levels of this pyramid, course objectives and unit objectives. Note that the terms outcomes and objectives are used interchangeably in this graphic. The book Essentials of Online Course Design asserts that outcomes are different from objectives. I personally disagree with that distinction, and others might as well. I believe that appropriately written student learning objectives describe learning outcomes, and therefore the two can be the same thing. I use these terms interchangeably in discussions of course design. I wanted to take a moment to ensure we have a shared understanding of the main terms related to learning objectives. The terms goals and objectives are used a lot in common speech, but sometimes the difference between them is confusing. So to be clear, when we talk about course goals in higher education, these are usually established when a course is first created, and they remain fairly consistent over time. They are broad in scope, which makes them more difficult to measure, and they are more often concerning the big ideas or concepts behind a course. Goals are important because they guide the selection of specific objectives or outcomes for instruction. Now, outcomes or objectives, these are detailed descriptions of the specific knowledge and skills that students should accomplish by the end of a course or the end of a unit of instruction. Objectives are very important because they provide the basis for designing assessments, and they should drive your choice of instructional activities. There are a few different formats that can be used to write learning objectives, but one easy-to-remember technique involves the A-B-C-D structure. So when writing a learning objective, you may first define the audience. So you're identifying who will be learning. This clarifies that the objective is for the student to accomplish and not the instructor. Next, you will define the behavior and specify what needs to be done. This is usually written with an action verb. It should be observable and measurable. The third part of an objective is the condition that may surround the objective. This is going to specify the situational factors that are involved. It may include resources, environment, or format. Sometimes it is written with the phrase, given such and such. The last part is the degree. This is where you specify how well or often the objective should be accomplished. This is often considered a performance expectation description. The components of the audience and condition description are sometimes represented as a stem at the beginning of a bulleted list of objectives. So you might use the structure, quote, by the end of Unit 1, students will be able to ... Let's look at an example of the A-B-C-D format. Here I have put together an objective. Faculty will apply the ABCD model to construct unit objectives for each unit of their course. I have shown here the different components of the ABCD format that are present in this statement. In this case, the audience are faculty members who are watching this video. The behavior I want to see is that they will apply the ABCD model. The condition is that I want them to construct unit objectives. And the degree is that I want them to construct objectives for each unit of their course. When writing objectives, it is important to select action words that precisely explain what students are to do. Too often, we want to use the words know and understand, but there are usually better ways to specify these vague terms. It is hard to directly observe someone knowing or understanding something. However, you can observe them explaining or critiquing or hypothesizing about something, which then reflects their knowledge and understanding. When I write objectives, I find it helpful to print a list of verbs that meet different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. I use these verb lists to help me find the most precise and measurable verb for the objective I am writing. I have included 2 helpful verb lists along with this video. One is a traditional verb list, and the other is a list that provides verbs specific to assessing students with technology. I encourage you to print these lists and use them to help you provide variety and clarity during the objective writing process. After you have finished drafting a set of objectives, one final check is to see if your objectives meet the SMART test. SMART is an acronym for: are they specific? Can they be measured through an assessment? Are they realistically attainable given the circumstances? Are they relevant to your overarching course goals? And is there an explicit time frame in which the objectives can be achieved? This last characteristic, time-bound, is the most confusing of the bunch. One way you might make an objective time-bound is to start with a phrase such as, by the end of this unit, or something like, when presenting one's web-based project, students will be able to ... This gives a time frame for when students should have mastered the objective. In summary, when writing student learning objectives for a unit or week of study, try using the A, B, C, D format to structure your objectives. Consider using a list of verbs for the different levels of learning on Bloom's taxonomy. This will help you with the writing process. Lastly, check your objective when finished to see if it meets the SMART test. If you need assistance writing learning objectives, feel free to schedule an instructional design consultation by contacting the Instructional Technologies Department. Thanks for joining me on this brief tour of crafting student learning objectives.